Well, hey there, everybody. I am Christy from the Meeting Wellness channel. And as always, it is very nice to meet with you this evening. Welcome to Lioness Lifestyle Live. This is a show where we honor a keto, carnivore, or meat-based woman. They share their experiences, their healing journeys, and this is all to inspire and bring our community together. And we believe that it's the sharing of these stories. It's one of the very best ways to help people who are sick and without hope. Now, you guys are totally used to seeing two other fierce lionesses on the screen, but they're not here this evening. But I have no slouches here with me tonight. I have a couple of fierce lionesses here. I have Robin. She is your carnivorous grandma. I'm stealing your intro, Robin, because it's fabulous. And I have Nia here from Nia's Way. Both ladies have been interviewed on my channel and also on the Lioness Lifestyle Live show. And I'm so happy to have them here as honorary lionesses with me this evening. But now it is time for one of my very favorite parts of the show, and that is this week's Roar of the Week. We're going old school. Sorry, Nia, you could peek down. Robin and I will peek over, but Eric posted this comment at the end of last week's show, and I was immediately like, Ellie, screenshot it. That is our Roar of the Week. Because Eric says there was no picanha talk in last week's episode and he demands a refund. So, Eric, I'm going to do my best to fit in picanha at some point in the episode. So, if you're watching right now, you listen out for it because I'm not going to sleep on the picanha this week. The cool thing about this week's show is we didn't really have an interview scheduled because we were planning on doing a roundtable discussion. So, I'm very excited to have my ladies here with me this evening. Our topic is the carnivore diet and mental health. Has it helped or has it hurt your mental health? And I have a lot of questions. Actually, they were generated by Adrian, who's not here tonight, to kind of go through this topic of carnivore diet and mental health. I would love for you ladies to answer these questions. And also, if you are here in the chat with us this evening, I see a lot of you. I mean, Josephine's already roaring, Josephine. She is ready to go. Yeah, I would love to have you guys answer in the comments. Bruce, I'm in charge of all of it. Look at me. I could click buttons, Bruce. So I've got the banners. I've got the roar of the week. I've got the intro, the outro, all the things. So that would be me. But we're going to kick this off with our first question here. So speaking of banners and things, here I go. So there is our first question. So how long have you struggled with mental health? Was it depression, anxiety, throughout your life? What kind of mental health challenges have you noticed? And we'll start with Robin. It's like a little mini circle. We'll just go around in the circle. So Robin, Nia, and then I'll wrap it up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Robin Heron, and I am your carnivorous grandma. Thanks you for introducing me, Christy. It's so good to be back with you. My gosh, it feels like it's been ages since I've been on Lioness Live, so I'm super excited to be here. So regarding this question, I really cannot remember a time where I wasn't an anxious person. So pretty much all my life, I guess I have struggled with that. Mainly anxiety, but some depression as well. I was struggling, as a kid, I was always very nervous. I was a worrier. And I see that same thing in my grandkids too. So I worry about them sometimes, like, oh, I'm sorry that they're having to go through that, but I think it's probably the food. And just years and years and years of the pile up of bad food. So I was always a worrier. And then as I grew older, I started to obsess about food and stuff like that. But I feel like it's been most of my life that I can recall being anxious. And then I think with menopause came and some depression as well, as menopause was trying to set in on me. I really struggled with some depression. So it's been a long time since I was a kid, I think.
Me? Okay. Yeah, I'm a lot like you, Robin. And I feel like I didn't even really realize the extent of the anxiety and the things that I was dealing with mental health wise until I have crossed over to the other side. I kind of always knew I had social anxiety, but I didn't really know that there was a term for that, but I knew it was like it was definitely related to any sort of extroverted activity that I would be a part of. And as many of you know from my story, I worked in restaurants for a long time, basically since I was 19 or so. Um, and so obviously it's a very extroverted position. You're kind of in a fishbowl and you got to manage all these people in front of you. And so that's where kind of the alcohol would come in to my situation to sort of cope with that anxiety. And I didn't really realize that was the connection necessarily, or that it even was an issue until much later on. Really, my first time on Carnivore, which was back in 2018, and then now since July-ish of 2023, Carnivore without alcohol. And so it's really been a night and day shift. And I think that's probably one of the hardest things to describe to people about the difference in how we feel mentally, because to me, I feel like that's probably most people's experience, right? Is maybe they've had a diagnosis or they're on some medications or something like that, but to not even, when you're in that cloud, to not even really be able to fully know what the opposite state of being feels like, like what it feels like to actually be a not anxious person, or somebody who isn't struggling every time they leave their home to kind of cope with being around a lot of people or being in crowded environments. It's hard to even describe the difference. And I still have my days where I feel taxed by that because I'm naturally introverted. So I think there's a difference between being an introvert and what that feels like versus having this sort of crippling social anxiety that I definitely used to suffer from. So yeah, I think the gut plays such a huge role in this too. And as somebody who came from a history of gut issues, I think that's probably one of the major factors that influenced my shift in how I feel mentally, is just not having the same microbiome and not having all that pain and stuff to deal with, because that was extremely anxiety provoking. So it kind of became that vicious cycle, right? The anxiety influences the gut and how it works or doesn't work, and how it can digest or not digest food, and then the maldigestion creates the anxiety. So it's like this vicious cycle. So being able to interrupt that cycle through the carnivore diet to improve my gut health, obviously influenced the amount of anxiety that I was feeling, and then vice versa. So now it's kind of this unvicious, what do they call it? A feedback loop, a positive feedback loop.
Basically. I was going to say a positive feedback loop. There you go. You got it.
As my gut health continues to improve, the less anxiety I have. And then, I've been managing my anxiety much better, in general, and then that improves the gut health. So they kind of work together.
Yeah, I would like to say ditto to Nia's answer. Like, she pretty much answered it almost identically to what I would say. It's amazing how a lot of us that have been doing this carnivore journey have similar background stories in many ways. When I was young, through my childhood and teenage years, I wouldn't say that I had any symptoms, mental health symptoms. I did a lot of things, like I sang in my children's choir at church and then on into the regular church choir. So I did lots of solos, singing in front of people and things like that, which is a very extroverted thing to do, to get on stage and sing in front of people. I played sports like volleyball and basketball. I did dance team and cheerleading. So I did a lot of things like that. I went to all the school dances. I had sleepovers with my girlfriends, right? Like, I did all of those things without feeling nervous, worried, or any kind of negative emotion towards those things. It was when I went to college and kind of got thrown in with a whole new group of people, which is funny because I did move around a lot as the kid. So I was used to trying to have to make friends with, new people. But yeah, I didn't feel comfortable there. I never did. And then from there is where I noticed like I just became more and more in my shell, in my own world, like not wanting to go out to the point that I didn't even want to go to the grocery store or go for a walk outside because I didn't want other people to look at me. So I think Robin said something about the food, like the bad food, the years and years of bad food, I think really built up. And I never would have told you until after being carnivore for the last 2 years that I even had any mental health issues at all. So I think I definitely struggled with anxiety and maybe even in my college years, maybe a little bit of depression. I had a hard transition, just going into those 4 years, moving away from home, being around new people, paying all my own bills, all that stuff. Plus, yeah, just the whole different environment of it. But yeah, I wouldn't have said that I had any. So none of those things are actual diagnoses. That's just me looking back and saying, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure that I had these things. So that kind of leads into the next question. So it says, what methods or interventions / medications did you try, if any, I guess, before discovering the carnivore diet? Were they effective? Did they get to the root of your issues? And did they have any side effects? So I'm going to start with that. And I'm going to, just because mine is short and sweet. No, nothing, because I didn't think that I had any problem. I didn't think that I had any problem. I'll go back and say something. I know Robin has experienced this too. It was even to the point where it was hard for me to drive on the freeway because I'd be looking over my shoulder, like anxious that someone was going to hit me. So I would look like 8 times before I would change lanes, like checking and rechecking and stuff like that. But still, I never thought it was a problem. And so therefore, I never tried any kind of interventions because I didn't know that I needed to try anything. How about you, Robin?
I so resonate with what you're saying there because I thought I was in a normal state of being. Like, I just thought that it was normal to be completely obsessive over food. It was normal to freak out and like worry when people would call, call my phone and all of those kinds of things. I was very, very worried all the time. And it did get to the point where I did stop driving and I still don't really get on the highway anymore. But at one point, which was about a year before I started Carnivore, I was like, I'm not going to be able to live a normal life. It was kind of after COVID. I got sent home like everybody, like a lot of people at COVID in March of 2020. And then I was home in my house for literally I literally did not leave my house for a year. And then I worked from home and I still work from home. And so by the time it was time to get back out and start doing things again, I found that I was not able to. I was afraid to go out. I was afraid to drive. I was afraid. I mean, even like things like, driving down the road. And if it's a sunny day, the shadows on the road would freak me out. Like they would give me this high level of anxiety. So I called my doctor and said, I need you to put me on something because I'm not going to be able to like live a normal life. I'm not going to be able to leave my house, And so she put me on a medication. And I don't even remember what the name of it was at this point, but it was like an antidepressant. And what did it do? I guess it calmed my brain down a little bit. But as far as like resolving the issue, it didn't really resolve the issue. Maybe I should have gone to therapy as I think about interventions, and things that you could try. I didn't try therapy. It was never suggested to me, and it didn't occur to me to try therapy for it. But that medicine did calm me down a little bit. But they did not get to the root of the issue. And if they did have side effects, I don't think I really registered those. Like they didn't make me sick, the last word on the side effects on the thing is on the commercial is always or death. And so I'm still alive. So thank God for that. I'm still here. And, but I was able to wean myself off of that medicine after 3 months on Carnivore. I started weaning off because I was like, I don't think I need this medicine anymore. And I wanted to be able to see how is my anxiety getting better? I noticed things like I would be able to, if my phone rang, I would be able to send the person to voicemail. And that was like, what? I think I was on a live stream like this one tonight, and the phone rang and I just sent it to voicemail because I was already, I was in a call. I was already in the live stream. And I didn't realize until after, like, oh my gosh, I didn't even freak out about the fact that that I had somebody calling me, because I would always be like thinking the worst every single time. So that is the main thing that I did, was I called the doctor and asked for medication. And the medication helped a little bit, but it did not really address the root of the issue.
My answer is self-medication. And that's kind of, again, if anyone's familiar with my story already, you kind of know that. But, and again, there was not this level of awareness that was why. It just, again, with the environment I was in, and like, oh, this is what everyone does. I just sort of fell into that and then realized, wow, I feel so much better when after 2 or 3 cocktails, I don't have this fear around talking to people or opening up. I can have so much more fun. And so that was actually the dangerous part, because it worked great. Like it in the moment, it solves the problem. But obviously in the long term, or in terms of getting to the root cause of the issue, it doesn't, and those types of self-medicated solutions never do. And so, and obviously it affected my health, I'm sure, in ways that I wasn't acutely aware of either, as those years went on. And so, yeah, the side effects of self-medicating are denial, and just kind of thinking that there is no issue sometimes, when there is. And then it was harder for me to get to the root cause, let's say, probably, than it would have been if I wouldn't have been doing that. So if I would have just not been drinking every night, till basically blackout, for 10 years, maybe I would have figured out, maybe some of that energy could have gone into finding this way of eating sooner, or you never know. So, but I used to look back on all of that and be ashamed and feel guilty. And I was honestly like scared to death to come out on the internet and talk about it in the beginning, because, there can be judgment there, and there can be like, oh, well, why don't you just do this other thing or whatever? And it's like, I just didn't. It's like you turn around one day and you realize, oh, this is where I am, kind of a thing. And I didn't, it kind of snuck up on me. And so that is kind of how everything played out. But now it's like I have zero desire, like, because I've tested it and I've been open about that on my channel. I'm like, yeah, I've had a drink, like a glass of wine on Valentine's Day, or I had champagne, like a couple of times, just to see, because I'm like, will this become an issue for me again? Or am I going to start like craving it? Am I going to want to cope with this again? And I've literally, like, there's some switch flipped, and like, I just don't have the desire. Like, I can have one glass of wine and be like, yeah, I'm good. I don't want to have anything else. I don't think about it the next day. I don't buy any, I don't keep any in the house. Like, I used to be like nervous if I would run out of, get low on alcohol. I'd be like, better go to the liquor store, so it's like a totally different existence. And I've talked about on my channel quite in depth as well, like how the things that I've used to replace that, because I think it's important. While my anxiety has reduced drastically due to my diet, like, we all still live life, right? And we're all going to still have stressors, and we're all going to still have hard times and things that we can't control that happen that, are going to stress us out. And so learning how to manage that stress properly, and using healthy habits and healthy coping mechanisms has been huge for me as well. And so I try to discuss that hand in hand with, anytime I talk about, letting go of a bad habit, right? It's got to be replaced with something that can take that place, or, we just sort of transfer it to something else unhealthfully. And we can even do that with exercise and some of these things that on the surface are healthy, or, in general are healthy, but they can become toxic if they fill that gap again from that deficit. And so that's my experience.
So Nia said that she used to get nervous whenever her alcohol was getting low. Now I get nervous if my picanha is getting low or my, I told you, or whatever meat I'm enjoying at the moment. If I'm going to run out of burger patties or bacon sometimes. Yeah, I get nervous if those things are getting low. But Nia, I think that it's amazing that you did get brave enough. Like you said in the beginning, you were nervous to share it. But I think that your experience is so many other people's experience. So like almost everyone I know, I mean, it's like almost a joke, or maybe it is a joke, how many teachers, because that's the field I'm in, drink like on a regular basis because teaching is hard. And so you go home and you have your wine, and a lot of people do that like every day. So I do think that that's a common experience for people. And I think that's awesome because you had that experience and then now you've figured out a way out, that's been positive and beneficial for you. So I think that's fantastic that you do that. Okay, here's our next question. When did you first notice a significant change in your mental health after adopting the carnivore diet? So how about you, Robin? What was your first sign that, that maybe there's a light at the end of this tunnel?
90 days carnivore. I felt the carnivore zen. I will never forget it. It was a feeling I had never felt before without some kind of substance. Without a substance. So yeah, I felt calm. I felt balanced for the first time, like that I could remember. I didn't feel worried or nervous. I didn't feel afraid. I didn't feel like, I can tell you what happened. I went to a meetup in Chicago with Carrie and those guys. That was a few months later. But I found myself like talking to everybody and like just walking up and introducing myself and, not being introverted and shy. I'm not really a shy person, but I would call myself shy because my behavior around people that I don't know would be like that of a shy person. So I am better with people that I know. I'm a relator. That's one of my skills. I mean, that's one of my personality traits. So I relate to people. So, but at 90 days carnivore, I felt like, oh my gosh, is this what it feels like to have no brain fog and feel perfectly calm and balanced? And that was something that I will never forget. And I can't say that I've felt that way all the time since then. It was very profound, the difference. And I just will never forget it because it felt like amazing. And that was when I first really, really noticed that my brain was healing.
How about
Yeah,
you,
for
Nia? When
me,
did you first notice?
yeah, the second round was, I didn't have that. Like, I remember feeling in the very beginning, I think I put a video up right around 3 weeks where it was like, oh, a light bulb went off. And I remember feeling something at that point. But since then, it's been much just more gradual. And I think that's another thing I try to talk about quite a bit is like the microbiome changes. And I think because but like right before, before I count starting over in July 2023, I was carnivore for like a year and change before that, but I kept like falling off the wagon so often that it would, like, I was still in this sugar cycle and like this hyper caffeine, like just stimulant addiction sort of place. So like I ate a bunch of meat and basically no vegetables, but then I was eating like processed food on the side every couple of weeks. Or so I was just in this like battle with myself back and forth. And so I think that really screwed up my microbiome. And so that's why I kind of feel like I had a more gradual change, a slower change this time versus the first time when I did carnivore. I had already been off all processed food, off all gluten, off all starches, off all FODMAPs. I basically had been eating for like 5 years before I got down to like salads and meat and olive oil, and I think olives and cucumbers was like the last thing. And that was like 18 months of that. And then vodka, before I went cut the plants out the first time. And so the first time I was like, holy mackerel, like this is amazing, And so I really have sort of narrowed it down to, like, again, the gut connection, like what kind of bacteria do you have in there? How resilient are they? Like, I think that is a lot of times what is going to depend or be the variable, I guess, in terms of how long it takes for people to notice a change. So like I noticed within the first few weeks a difference, but then it's much more gradual over the last really 18 months. But that's why I always have to take like that macro zoom out lens again on my whole journey and be like, okay, 10 years ago, I used to not be able to go to Walmart without a rum and Coke, in my car driving to the store, like that's past Nia. And now here we are where I can, like Robin said, go to meetups and, yeah, it's taxing and I need like my couple introvert days after something like that. But I don't have that debilitating, like go hide type of fear response that I used to have in situations like that. So huge change overall. And I think, the longer you go, just the better it gets.
I have a question about this topic, and I wonder about this too, for other carnivores is, do you feel happier on carnivore? I'm just going to address it for myself because I definitely feel calmer. I feel less anxiety. But I'm not sure that I feel happy all the time. And so I just wondered if other carnivores are experiencing the same thing where it's not really like, it's great brain health. It's calm and, relieving depression. Like I'm not debilitatingly depressed or anxious, but I wonder about happiness. Like, are you happier on carnivore?
Well, so I would say that carnivore is not so carnivore is going to change your internal health, right? Carnivore does not fix what's going on at work and what your kid did, or in your case, grandma, your grandkids may have done, or whatever, right? What your husband, whatever, all that stuff, right? That goes on. So all that stuff is still happening. My job is still stressful. So I can feel upset by those things because that's legitimately stressors or things that, I'm not just going to walk around happy. And I don't think that's natural. I don't think people are just walking around happy. I think if you are walking around happy, like 100% happy 100% of the time, like that's an issue, because I don't think that's really reality. I know they're laughing at me. Like I'm trying to say this as gently as I can, but like, I just don't think that's reality. So I would say that I am able to deal with stress a lot better. Like Nia, I can go to a meetup and like run up to people that I've only seen online and like give them a hug and not be nervous about it. Yes, Nia, afterwards, I need my day or two. And my husband knows now, like that was a big struggle with us because he doesn't have that experience. And so he would never understand why I didn't want to leave like the last day of school. Like if it's the last day of school, I am not leaving that day for a vacation because I need a couple days to like, and then pack my stuff and then I can go. And he had such a hard time with that. Now, like the last vacation that we did like that, he was like, okay, I will take this child. You take your 2 days and follow us with the other one. I was like, awesome, we can do that. But whereas before that would have made him upset because he didn't understand why we couldn't go as a family. And I'm like, because I cannot mentally, I can't do it. Like it won't be a fun vacation with me. I will be a miserable wreck the whole time because I'm just upset that I had to do that. Right. And so I still need my introvert days, like after things to like gear up or gear down from things. But while we were on that vacation, it was a fabulous time. I had a great time. And that was because, he gave me the grace to like take my 2 days so that I could go there and be there, fully without feeling upset that I didn't have my days that I needed as an introvert, right? Whereas in the past, I would be dreading the whole fact that we're even going on vacation. And like, I'm going to do this stupid vacation because he wants to do it. And like in my head, right, this is my mental talk. And I'm going to endure it and it's going to suck, but I'm going to have to suck it up and pretend like I'm happy the whole time. And he owes me big because I did this huge thing. And then I would go and then I would be very miserable, try to like hide, try to not do any events and just stay in the hotel room and like not do anything and just be like secretly mad, or maybe not so secretly, I don't know, the whole time, right? So so I'm able to understand like, okay, I'm an introvert by design, I feel. So this is what I need, but like in the meantime, when there are social things going on, I do enjoy them. When I get invited places, like my mom invited me to Arizona for 4 days at the end of my spring break, that would have been hell to me. I would have been like, excuse me, but I need my full spring break to sit on my couch. I don't want to take 4 days to go and be with you. Well, now guess what? I have my few days at the beginning of the break to decompress from school. And then I'm going to have a great time with my mom at this conference that she wants to go to. Like, it's not my thing, it's her thing. But hey, I'll take every day that I can with my mom because I know I'm not going to have her around forever. So I'm excited to go and do that with her. I'm not mad about it. I'm actually looking forward to that trip. So does that answer your question, Robin? Does that make sense? I hope so. How about?
Yeah, I appreciate what you said about life is still lifing, right? Even though we're carnivores now, and it's absolutely amazing. So many great, amazing brain benefits, but still, life's still going on. So definitely appreciated that.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, to kind of just give a short answer, I think that, like, I agree with you, Christy. I think that happiness, like we're not always going to be happy, right? And constantly chasing happiness isn't necessarily the goal. And that's something that I've reflected on quite a bit. But I think what I have now is I have the space, and I have the space between what happens in my external environment and the way that I process that and react to it to make a new choice. And I think that is where the opportunity is to choose to be happy about things that, again, we can't control necessarily coming in, but we can always choose how we react to it, how we respond to it, and what it means to us about life and the person and the situation. And so, but it's hard to have that gap time to really say, okay, this is what's coming in. How do I want to respond? If we're just on edge and reacting out of our past, like Robin talked about, or did you mention that? I was listening to something right before this, actually, on a similar topic. So I'm like, wait a minute, was that you or is that her? Anyway, just like, we have that lens that we look through life, right? And when you are in brain fog and you're debilitated with anxiety, or you're wallowing in depression, or you're just constantly reacting to everything, that doesn't feel good, and that doesn't feel empowering, right? And so that's like, I find way more opportunities now to be able to choose to be happy, or to choose peace, or to choose the thing that is going to be best for me, or the way that I want to respond, even if it's harder, or I have to drop my ego a little bit, right, before I respond to something, or so that little space has come from really this way of eating and lowering that overall inflammation, lowering that overall anxiety, so that I just have a different baseline. And yeah, something comes in and piques my stress, but I can manage it better and try to react to it better and make a conscious, more empowered choice of how I want to feel about it, versus like that was not accessible to me in the past, really, at all. Not aware of it at all. So yeah, that's my take.
So I think the thing about it is, and what I'm thinking in terms of is, having realistic expectations, because we hear some amazing things about what carnivore does for brain health, depression, anxiety. I mean, I've heard some incredible stories with people that I've interviewed and other stories that I've listened to, But when I think about happiness, I mean, I love eating meat. Don't get me wrong. It makes me happy. But that doesn't mean that I'm happy every day because I'm on carnivore now. So just kind of putting that out there as not an expectation to where you're like, it's ruining it for you if you're not feeling happy every day. So that's kind of what I was thinking about.
Yeah, I think when we interview people or you listen to these interviews, I mean, they're sharing the highlights of how carnivore helped them. That's not like 24/7 that stuff's going on, right? That's like the things that they experienced. So, for me, the first thing that I experienced, this was the question that we have been talking about, was if you don't know my story, I just like accidentally went carnivore because I was too lazy to cook the vegetables. I didn't have, severe stomach issues like Nia, or a reason that made me choose to go carnivore. But then after I did that, all of a sudden one day I got invited, well, not even invited, like my son got invited to an amusement park, which would have been like, no, thank you. I would have said no every time. But I didn't want to say no because, it was his experience, but I also didn't feel comfortable letting him go with people that were strangers to me. And like before I could even think it through, the words just came out of my mouth. Well, yeah, you can go if I go too, because the person that invited him, their parents were going. So I was like, well, if I go too, like I'll pay for my own ticket, but I'll go too. And then that way we can all go. And then it was like I reflected on the word that just came out of my mouth, like what just came out of my mouth? Because really what I would have said before was, are you crazy? You don't know those people. I would not have offered to go, but so I just would have told him no. So I would have like, not only was my own world shrinking, but I wouldn't have allowed him to have that opportunity either, because I wouldn't, have gotten out there. I couldn't even believe it. And then I went to that amusement park and had a great day. So that was the very first thing that was a very significant change for me. The girl who wouldn't even go for a walk outside because she didn't want to be seen. Let me just go to this amusement park, deal with the parking and the 50,000 other people and the lines. And by the way, not even with anyone I know, but with, strangers, and hang out with them all day. And it was a great day. And so that was the first significant change. And then I just sort of noticed these things you kind of woven, throughout my normal life. It was like, oh, I don't mind going to this, family gathering. I don't feel nervous about doing that. I don't, you know, go out of obligation, but I go because there's people there that I love and like probably want to hang out with, that kind of thing. So those were like the big things, the big aha moments that I had at first. My next question here is, have any of you ladies ever tried reintroducing foods into your diet after experiencing improvement on carnivore? Did you notice a return or worsening of mental health issues when certain foods were added back?
This is a great question. I have a perfect example. I have tried to introduce a few foods back in, but not really felt the mental health issues until I went on a cruise with G. Brown and her husband, Frederick. And on that cruise, I decided that I was going to, hey, Pixel, I decided that I was going to have some mint in my water. So fresh mint, and I added it to sparkling water, and it tasted absolutely amazing. So I probably drank that a couple times a day for maybe 2 or 3 days. By the time I got off the cruise, I was basically worse off than I had been before with anxiety. My husband and I had to be in Miami for the day, and we went to the mall, and we were upstairs in the mall. And you know how the mall has those glass walls, right? In the center where you can look down over the edge. I could not move. I was stuck in place. I'm trying to grab my husband's arm. He's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "I can't move. You're going to have to help me get downstairs," because I could not function. And, so I cannot tolerate that plant for sure, mint. I've found that there are so many plants that I've tried, like black pepper. I can't have that. I really can't tolerate any kind of peppers. Um, it causes eczema flares and stuff. That's my biggie, the big eczema. And then things like broccoli, cauliflower. I tried early on to have a little bit of that, cause eczema flares. But the one thing that really got me from a mental health perspective was that mint, and it was awful. And it took days before I felt back to normal again. So that was, I won't be taking any risks like that anytime in the near future.
Wow, that's terrifying. And that made me think of, actually, I think Dr. Chafee actually talked about something similar to that, where he had like lamb that had seasoning, and it might have been mint, honestly, like, because I think it was like lamb with a mint rub or a big seasoned rub or something like that. And he said the same thing. It was like just this crazy kind of flip in the thoughts coming in and stuff like that. I haven't had maybe necessarily as black and white of a situation. But again, mine is so it'll just creep in, like even with things like dairy, I notice I keep trying to add dairy back in because I love dairy, and it always ends up in a bad situation. And then I think, oh, this time it's going to be different, and then it never is. But like, and there again, I think it's whatever microbes feed off of stuff. Because really I've only tried to introduce not a whole lot. I really, it's been that battle with dairy for the most part. And then I've just had some times when I've cheated, like not been intentionally like, let me see how I react to this food. It's like I ate candy at Christmas or something, like that situation. And it never ends up, turning out very well. But I get the gut symptoms right off the bat. That's the very first place that I see something happen. And then kind of like you, Robin, I've got like psoriasis stuff. So that'll be the second issue. And then I think for me, like the mental stuff is downstream of those two things.
Interesting. So this is where I have a totally different answer from you two ladies. So for me, I never had, gut issues. And I think, when I accidentally went carnivore and then realized, well, this is healthier and I'm doing better, before that I was like meat-based keto. And I think it was just a matter of, I'm like 99% carnivore, but there's a couple of things that I super occasionally will have. So I might have an occasional avocado or an occasional pickle. And I still do use like the sweetened electrolytes. So I don't use the raw unflavored. But I was always using that kind of thing like on keto. So I've never taken that totally out, right? The raw or the sweetened electrolytes are something that I use daily. The other things, it's like I don't even crave them anymore. It's super rare if I have them. And it's usually like if I'm at a restaurant or something like that, I'll be like, oh, I'm going to get some pickles with my burger patties, that kind of thing. There are even times where I'll think to myself, like I'll be grocery shopping and I'll buy an avocado and then it just rots because I never, like, it sits there and then it rots because I'm like, I never have that. Oh, I'm going to actually eat that avocado. So I would say it's just super rare, and it's just gotten more and more rare. So maybe it's like, it's not that I've reintroduced it. It's that I never totally pulled out, I guess, pickles or avocados, if you want to look at it this way. But now I might eat those things once every 2 or 3 months. I might have a few pickle chips or a part of an avocado, that kind of thing. So I don't think it's enough. I mean, who knows? Maybe if I totally pulled them out and went like 100% strict, who knows what other benefits I may or may not experience. It's certainly not enough to make my mental health go back, to where it was before. So I don't notice any of that. And I never had the gut issues. So it's not like, and I don't have eczema or psoriasis. So it's not like those things come out as like, uh-oh, you ate a plant that, your body didn't like, because I never had those symptoms really in the first place. So, okay, we're going to go to this one, and I'm going to read it. And then I'm going to say about a comment that I got on my channel that I thought was funny. And then I would like you ladies to comment on it. So, what about practices like fasting, grounding, sunlight, blocking blue light, like Mia's doing with her glasses right now, etc.? Do they have a noticeable impact on your mental well-being? For those of you that follow my channel, you know that I put in a patch of grass in my backyard. We had taken all the grass out because the water to water that grass is very expensive. Then when I learned about grounding and its potential benefits, I put that, or my husband, I didn't do it, he did it, put in a patch of grass for me, and we do pay for that water to keep that grass, green for me. And I go out there on several days a week, and I go put my bare feet on that grass. And if I can do it at sunrise, I can't do that on school days, but on weekends or holidays or summer vacation, I go out there at sunrise. If you see me making a video out there, I'll have my glasses on, and I just wait for the comments of like, those glasses are, you're blocking. I take them off like this and let the sun in my eyes, because these glasses do turn dark. I just can't see without them. So when I make the videos, I have them on, but I take them off and I let the sun in my eyes when I'm out there. And, I feel calmer. It sounds funny to say I feel grounded when I'm grounding, but yeah, I do. I enjoy it. It's just like a great thing. Even if I can't do it at sunrise, if I do it after a day of teaching, it's so funny because I like live in suburbia, but it's like my little piece of nature. I do have trees like palm trees and other trees kind of all around. It's green. There's birds out there and whatever. And it's just fresh air and I just feel good. So I love it and I enjoy it. I do think it's good for my mental health. Just like self-care. It's an easy self-care thing to do, right? But I got this comment on my last short that I made about that. And they basically said, I think it's the placebo. That's just a placebo effect. I'm happy for anyone that this helps, but this is placebo effect. So we'll start. That's my answer. And also we'll start with Robin about this question. And do you think it's just placebo effect? Am I just making this stuff up in my head, Robin?
I don't think so. So I've been using a grounding mat on my bed for years now. And when I first got it, my shoulder was locked. Like I couldn't lift my arm. I couldn't move my arm around. It would go up like this and that was it. And I slept on that grounding mat for probably about 3 months. And then all of a sudden my shoulder was loose again. My husband noticed that he had like these amazing Technicolor dreams when he slept on the grounding mat when we first got it. And so there is something to it. And it has a lot of benefits. So, yeah, I agree, Jay. If it makes you feel good, does it matter if it's a placebo? Right. Like, so if my shoulder was locked and then it wasn't, then is that, does it matter if it's a placebo? My shoulder's better now. So I do think that getting sunlight in your eyes, it helps with your circadian rhythm. And so, helps you get better sleep, be more energized during the day, those kinds of things. Getting that morning sun is really, really good. And getting the evening sun is also very good as well. And then, of course, grounding. I got a little thing about grounding because I'm afraid of ticks. So I don't want to go out in the grass, but what I learned is that you can actually ground on the concrete. So I step outside my door or I will ground in the grass with socks on because I'm just like, I'm there. The ticks are terrible here in Michigan. I don't know if you guys get ticks where you are, but we get those deer ticks and I just cannot imagine how I would respond if I found one on my body. So I'll put socks on and I'll go ground in the grass with socks, or I'll ground right up on the concrete pavement, put a little water out there, or if it's damp in the mornings, that's really good. I know some people that do the grounding even in the snow and in the winter and stuff, they go outside and put their feet in the ground, even in the wintertime. So my glasses that I have on now, these are blue light blocking computer glasses. And I wear them all the time. So if I'm outside trying to get sun in my eyes, I will take them off like Christy. I'll take them off as well because they're going to block some of those sun rays. And so, but yeah, I think that it definitely does have an impact. If you can get grounded, I think some people even really feel that electricity going out of their body when their feet touch the ground. And so that is something that's really a profound thing. So yeah, I feel like it definitely helps with well-being and you know, that mental health aspect of it. Last year, I did a lot of walking in the sun, in the morning sun. I would walk up to the top of my plat and catch the morning sun coming over the horizon. I haven't done that so much this year, but when it gets warmer outside, I'll plan to get back outside and do that.
Yeah, I agree, and that's why it's so dark on my end of the camera. So apologies, but I just got my one webcam light on, and then this light behind me, and I'm like, I'm not turning on this ring light right before I go to bed. So I think all of these have an effect. I truly do. I think fasting is super healing. It's ancient. Anything that's ancient is probably the truth, you know, in my opinion. So whether it's intermittent fasting, I think there's a whole spectrum of what is applicable and helpful for different people in terms of fasting. I don't do any long-term stuff right now, but I definitely intermittent fast, and I just finished up a week of one meal a day again, which I feel amazing on, but sometimes I struggle to eat enough when I'm doing one meal without bogging down my system. So anyway, I'm going to make a video on that soon. But probably the biggest one in terms of mental well-being for me is the sun. Like, I can't even tell, like, just how some people feel different when they step onto the ground. I feel an instant difference that lasts probably 4 to 6 hours after I'm in the sun as soon as I'm in it. And I kind of get like as much sun as I possibly can. And I'm lucky right now, both where I live, it's sunny a lot of the time and it's warm enough to get out most of the year. And then my balcony faces south right now. And so I actually have like a little couch, you know, outdoor couch out there. And just the way that it comes, you know, like I can go out there and get sun like almost every day. And so I do that, and it makes a huge difference. And I think vitamin D is probably, and we all know it's important, hormone D, right? It's not even really a vitamin. I think it's probably one of the most important things that we can, again, access basically for free, you know, like, again, depending on where you live and the climate and everything, but there's nothing like being in the sun. And I feel a major difference out of all the, like, I do all that. I have the grounding mat and the blue light glasses, and these make a difference for sleep. But in terms of mood and well-being and mental health, it's the sun by far for me.
That's awesome. Okay, I'm like excited to hear your answers to this question because we've all heard about the carnivore card and who has a carnivore card and whose carnivore card has been taken away and all of that stuff. We all know there are different levels of strictness, right, on carnivore. To me, it's like, hey, if it doesn't bother you and you feel your best on it, great. Like, I'm not judgmental about that. So, but some carnivores can use spices. I know Robin mentioned pepper. I steer clear of pepper, not because it bothers me, but because I've learned that it's all full of oxalates. And so I'm like, dang it, I don't want those oxalates in there, which I know we had a question about oxalate dumping. So maybe after this one, we'll address that because I want to make sure any viewers, you know, get their questions answered. But here's the question. Have you ever been worried that your carnivore card would be taken away if you enjoyed certain non-carnivore foods that didn't bother you? So I guess I'll start on this one because I know that there are very strict carnivores out there. And I think at the beginning, it was like this weird tightrope that I felt like I was walking, because when I went to a restaurant, I felt like a complete weirdo. I was like nervous to order because it was like, just give me the steak and nothing else, or like just ordering burger patties a la carte. Like, who does that? So I was like nervous about what is that, you know, what are people around me or the waitress? Oh, this is so weird, but okay, I did it, you know, but it's like, I just felt weird about it. But then at the same time, it was like, oh, if I say that I'm eating a pickle or say that chicken, like a lot of carnivores are doing videos about I've taken out chicken or I've taken out eggs. I still eat chicken and eggs in my carnivore, you know, food plan or whatever you want to call it. And what's funny is no one has ever looked at me and said, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, no one's ever said that to me. So maybe I'm imposing that on myself because I see other carnivore influencers making videos about taking out chicken and all the reasons that they have potentially done that. And then the next time I make chicken, I look at that and be like, well, should I be worried about eating this because of XYZ reasons. So there you have it. I'm not sure if anyone's taken my card. I don't know if anyone can take my card, but I do think those are things I think about when I choose things that I know there are more strict carnivores than I, right? And so it's like, I wonder what they might think, I guess, about me or the people that still do include things like chicken or eggs, or even like my sweetened electrolytes or things like that. So Robin, the carnivore card, are you worried about it? Has it caused you anxiety?
I wish they would come for it. Come over, you're gonna run over and you're gonna limp back. Don't come for me. Don't come over and be dogmatic, because everybody's doing. I say you're carnivore your way. Just like you said, if you're having a little bit of avocado, I'm doing coaching now. So I have some ladies that are asking me questions about what they can have. And I'll tell them, well, technically that's not, it's not meat, right? It's a plant. But I'm not going to be dogmatic about the way they do their carnivore. Now, we've got this whole spectrum from low carb, keto, ketovore, carnivore. I consider myself to be a primarily meat-based carnivore person. That is the way that I eat. And I use a little bit of Redmond's real seasoned salt here and there. I had to eat a little bit of sauerkraut because I took an antibiotic and jacked up my gut biome. So I ate some sauerkraut. I'm still a carnivore though. So I think that being dogmatic can be really gross. And so I don't like it. And I don't want to be that way. And I don't prefer, I feel like the carnivore community is very welcoming. There are some people out here that are super dogmatic, and that's not carnivore, and that's just ugly to me. And so if you're primarily meat-based, then I say you're carnivore your way, do your thing. I'm not going to come for your carnivore card, and don't try to come for mine.
Amen. No, I've never been afraid of it. And I could make a whole hour on just this question, I feel like, because I think it's really important. And I've gone back and forth and thinking about like, oh, well, what is carnivore and what isn't, and da 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 da. And like, just listening to a lot of different people's opinions. And, I came to this not even knowing, kind of like you, Christy, like I didn't know what the carnivore diet was. I was just doing my own elimination, N=1. And then realized, oh, I feel amazing just eating meat. You know what I mean? And then I had to go figure out like, oh, this is what people are calling it. And there's Sean Baker and there's Michaela Peterson and all that stuff. So like, and then there was a name for it, So it's like, I didn't even come to this as like, oh, I want to try carnivore. What is that? And what are the parameters of that? It was like, no, what do I feel best on and what works for me? That's what I'm going to do. And I don't really care what that is called or what anybody else thinks about it. So, I mean, that's just kind of always the place that I've come to. However, I understand where people will bring this up and say like, well, for people that do come to this and say, I want to try a carnivore diet, there need to be rules, right? There needs to be like, okay, well, just so people know like, okay, where did they even start? And so that's why I feel like things like BBB and E are helpful because it's very simple and it's like, here's exactly what you eat. If it's not one of these things, then it's not part of this, right? And so I get that argument around carnivore and what it is, and it's, but there's just like everything else, we're all going to be individual. Like I'm having a cough drop right now because I've got some allergies and I've got like a super sore throat today, and I can handle a lot of pain and stuff in a lot of ways, but like when I get a sore throat, I tell everyone like I'm the biggest baby. So if I'm going to sit on here and talk with, like I'm going to have a cough drop. Is anyone going to take my carnivore card? I get the best kind I can find, whatever, but it has some sugar, big deal. The point is, I think is that, like even, this is the other thing, even Bart K, and how hard he can be on people sometimes with critiquing what they say, and I appreciate his videos, but he says 70% animal, your intake of energy from animal products. That's the definition, according to him. At least that's the last I heard. And so I don't think that there's any need to be, again, hyper dogmatic about judging every little morsel that somebody puts in their mouth. I don't think that that's, again, looking at the bigger picture. The bigger picture of this is that we get off the processed foods, we get off the drinking every single day, we get off all the other, addictive things. We reverse these conditions that are reversible through different, lifestyle interventions. And if that means somebody can eat 2 grapes today at 6 p.m. and, whatever, then who cares? If Sonia can eat that but maybe I can't. So like, I agree. I think most people in this community aren't like that, and are very accepting, but there's always potential with social media, the way that it works, to kind of funnel the more extreme versions of this to the top. So I think as more and more people discover it and come on board, there'll be enough variety, and I don't think it'll turn into anything crazy.
Okay, well, our hour is up. However, I would like to give Journey to Health, I hope you're still watching, a little advice on oxalate dumping. So I personally did not experience very much oxalate dumping, but I think that I did experience some, and it was in the form of a rash on my chest. So maybe 2 or 3 times, and it hasn't happened in a while. And I know it can be like 5 years later, it can still happen. So I'm not saying that I'm even out of the woods. Fortunately, it was not super bad. So I'd get this rash all over my chest that would last for 2 or 3 days. It'd be like little red bumps, and it would be kind of itchy, and then it went away. So I did not really do anything for that, except I did just watch a couple of Sally Norton's videos just to see, like, okay, I think this is some oxalate dumping. So let's go to the queen herself and listen to what she has to say. And so I know that if you're having very severe symptoms, like I've heard about people having crystals coming out of their eyes. Like if I had that, I think I would do some of her mitigation strategies. And I know that one of them is to drink a cup of black tea every day, or some other like kind of low oxalate. Just give yourself a little bit of oxalates through something like that, and it will slow the dumping down. The other thing is to just suck it up, buttercup, and this too shall pass, right? I think it just depends on how severe it is. And again, to our last topic, how strict you want to be, because you're not going to get those oxalates from carnivore foods. It's going to have to be something that's a plant, like black tea, to give yourself a few oxalates, which will just slow that process down. But I do know that it's something that can happen cyclically, and it can happen even, years later. I for sure ate my fair share of spinach, you guys. I loved spinach, steamed spinach. Weird. I know who likes that. I did. I ate it just with salt. I ate so much of it before I knew anything. So I'm sure they're in there. And maybe I'll even have a few more rashes before all is said and done. Do either of you ladies have some oxalate advice for Journey to Health?
I think you gave some really good advice. And I recently have, like over the last weekend, I recently lost a few pounds, like 5 pounds in a month, which was awesome. But along with that came some oxalate dumping on my thighs. So I noticed these rashes on the sides of my legs. And I just don't do anything about it. I literally just continue to do what I'm doing. And eventually they do go away. But I think, Chrissy, you gave a good answer with the, adding a little bit of tea or adding a little bit of oxalate in order to slow it down if it's very, very bad. But I just let it pass. It passes naturally eventually.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to add. I've suspected that because I think there can be GI related symptoms that are oxalate related, or oxalate associated. And sometimes I wonder if the psoriasis that I still experience from time to time is part of that. I don't know for sure. And I've read Sally's book and I've tried the black tea experiment. I didn't really notice a whole lot, but I also drank the caffeine free because I can't tolerate the caffeine. Black tea just like gives me heart palpitations in general. And I don't think it was just the caffeine. It's like I could never drink it without getting like extreme anxiety. So I was kind of scared to try it, but I did a caffeine free for a couple days and I didn't notice an immediate difference. So I'm not totally sure. But I think, yeah, her book is definitely the sort of the best resource I think we have in our community to look into that further.
Awesome. Well, we are coming up here to the end of the show, and you guys know that it would not be a Lioness Lifestyle episode if we did not roar our way out of here. Some of you guys were ready to roar at the beginning of the show, which totally made my night, you guys. So please get ready to roar. Put them in the comments so that I can put them on the screen and shout you guys out. And now I'm the only lioness here. Adrian and Ellie will be back at some point in the future. So I will be the one to also count us down tonight. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Roar. Yay. Look at me, you guys. I'm pushing all the buttons. Here we go. Okay, thank you. So I've got a roar here from Robin herself. Nia says roar. One thing I couldn't do was type in my own roar because I'm busy pushing buttons. Jody, thank you so much. Yay. I did see Eric's Picanha roar. You know I can't. There we go. Can't leave without that. Thank you so much, Josephine. You guys are so awesome. And one for Pixel. Yes, she showed her face today, Bruce. I hope you are happy about that. She's been ignoring us. Thank you, Bill. You too, Josephine. Yay. Oh my gosh, so good. All right, from all of us here, including our carnivorous grandma and Miss Nia at Nia's Way, we would like to thank you so much for tuning into Lioness Lifestyle Live. We do have an awesome guest scheduled for next week, so we hope to catch you next Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific or 8 p.m. Eastern, or whatever your time zone is. Until then, good night, everybody.
Good night.